Alright, so in this episode, I'm going to be talking about slavery and freedom because we, everyone in the world, has this idea of, you know, um, slavery doesn't exist and we're all free. Obviously, some people in different states and in different countries, in different places, in different households, everything like that, they all feel differently. And it's really important that we all understand really how free everyone is and how much of a slave you are. Because just by changing laws and by moving stuff around really doesn't change the state of your being. So what it really comes down to is the only freedom in most places that you have is the freedom to leave, right? That is really where your freedom, the only freedom that you have is your freedom to leave. And that can be taken away too in societies where they imprison you, right? So then you have no freedoms. All your freedoms are gone. But when it comes down to it, is most people what they're doing is enslaving themselves. And almost everybody does this to a certain extent because your labor is forced on yourself, and your restrictions on what you can do are forced on yourself. So the overall goal to freedom is you have to be self-sustaining in a place that you don't need to rely on participating in society. So what exactly that would look like would be you're owning your own house, right? Your land that you reside on, you're owning that, and then you're able to get, your food and water and like utilities and all that stuff from your own without having to go into society at all. That's the only person that can consider themselves truly free from society, right? No matter where you are, as soon as you step off of your property and you step foot into someone else's property, whether it be government owned or a person or anything like that, you are now taking part in society. All right. So once that happens, you are no longer, the freedom that you have really is only to leave and go back into your own land and your own place, right? Some people don't, and most people don't have their own land, their own place. Most people are renting and all that kind of stuff. So because of all that, they're participating in society. And when you participate in society, you're really no longer free. What you are is you're subject to the rules and regulations of whoever governs that property, right? And interactions are all not really a freedom, that you have. Obviously, all your actions have all your choices and actions and stuff like that, you can make them, but there is a known outcome for those actions. So if you step foot on that society, as soon as you step foot there, you have to be aware of a proper way to conduct yourself as to not be either imprisoned and where you cannot leave and you cannot go back to your place and you cannot be free. You have to know all those rules and regulations. So if you don't follow those, then you're subject to those rules. And the issue that comes into it is you think to yourself, right? But I can choose which way to go in this maze. I can choose all that stuff as long as I end up at this destination of, I'm trying to get the cheese, which is like, or you're trying to get the prize, right? So that'd be like you are going to work, right? And in this maze of life that we travel through, we can go any way we want to go to get to work. We can choose any work position that we want to, but in the end of it, if we're participating in that society and we're not self-sustaining ourselves, once while we're doing that whole entire thing, we are not free. We're not free to make the choices that we want. You may feel like you're free because you have options of where to go, but you're truly not free. You're participating in society, and you'll choose. Let's say you work at you choose one place to work, right? As soon as you're working at that place, you have to conduct yourself in the manner that they're telling you to conduct yourself, and that limits your freedom. Once you change and go against what they're saying, you are now at risk of losing your job. And same applies to customers. Customers, they are expected to follow a certain rule set. As a customer, as a member of that society, you are expected to engage in transactions a certain way, and if you don't, then you are subject to whatever those repercussions are. So it's kind of important to realize that, because if you are paying for rent, you're paying for your utilities, your water, your electric, your gas. If you're paying for all that, and you're paying for the food that you don't make any of your own food, you're paying for all that, and your waste and all that stuff, you're paying to get rid of it and everything like that. You are not free, and you are continuously just a slave. Maybe somebody doesn't own you, as far as you're not imprisoned at their compound or their property, right? But in the sense of the slavery being, you are forced to work every day because if you do not work, you can't pay your rent, you can't pay your food, you can't pay your electricity and all that stuff. So you're enslaving yourself because you are forced to work. And in society, in most places, we kind of set ourselves up for this. We haven't been raising people to really create a stable, self-sustaining environment for themselves before they go out and explore other avenues and stuff like that. So we're as a society, we have been forcing ourselves into slavery, and then what we've been doing with that is we continue this everything that we do and all the money that we give and all that stuff just makes that a stronger and stronger solidifying factor, right? And some places have retirement. So if you work for that society, if you work in that society for a certain amount of time, then you still can participate in that society and still have to follow the rules, but they will pay for your house, your food, and all that kind of stuff. You're a slave. You're still a slave. If you're collecting retirement, you're still a slave. Unless you own your own property, have your own utilities all on your property, and you're self-sustaining it with your food. Once you do that stuff, that is the only people that are free. The only people that are free are those people right there. And at any time, if somebody can just cut that stuff out from you, cut you off from that, and say, I'm sorry, but because of the way you're acting or whatever, we're not going to give you this stuff. That's how you know. That's how you know you're not free. So, ideally, if you want to be free, you would want to have a family that works and provides for themselves, right? So, it's in today's age, it's a lot easier to do that, right? You can own land, you can own your house, you can own solar electricity that is very developed, that can give you the utility needs that you need. You can even own vehicles that do not need that do not need gas. So you can, all your utilities and home and all that stuff, you can use chickens. You can have like 5 chickens, 1 goat, and grow the rest of your food, and you can self-sustain yourself like that. And then your waste and all that stuff, for most people, we're relying on society for that, but you could potentially set yourself up where you wouldn't need to do that. However, you'd have to do all those things, right? And it seems like, oh, that's a lot to do. That's going to cost all this money and all that stuff. But that's freedom. That is what the state of freedom is. So what we do too is in a society, we've grown to push people out once they get to a certain age, right? And most people want to get out. They want to feel the freedom, right? They want to feel the freedom of, I'm no longer enslaved in this household. I'm no longer forced to follow the rules of this household. I can now, no longer follow these rules. I still have to follow these other rules, but I no longer have to follow the rules of my the people that I'm residing with. That freedom of where to go and stuff like that, to leave, right, is given to you at a certain age, and that feeling is good, right? But it's not always the best situation. The best situation would be to have made enough money to purchase your own land at that point. And it's tough because currently laws, regulations, and all that stuff limit the ability to do that. And most people would be forced to work outside and bring money back into their own land, their home that's self-sustaining. They'd be forced to go do that for a little bit of time before they're able to expand their own land. And that's what's necessary. If you want to truly feel that freedom and know what freedom is, that's what you have to strive for, and that's what we have to try and achieve. Is we have to be self-sustaining, and we're not self-sustaining, and you feel the burden on societies that are very large, that require everyone to participate, right? Those are the ones that you see that are getting taxed the most, because they require money from other resources for other people to sustain them. And because most societies are away from that self-sustaining, because it helps grow their society and everyone is working together, really what you're doing is you're enslaving yourself. We're enslaving ourselves as people, as in nations and stuff like that. We're enslaving everyone without realizing it, because we're forcing labor, we're forcing the inability to just stop and not do anything, and we create these different words to make it feel like it's not slavery, and to make it feel like we are actually free, to have that ability to leave, but only for a short amount of time before you have to come back and start it back up over again. So you feel that freedom of what it's like to actually truly be free, and then you come back and you're like, okay, now I have to participate in this and this and this and this and this. So it's just really important that everyone understands that although we changed the laws, although we changed in some places, although we changed laws, although we've changed the wording of certain situations, the actual ownership of somebody is truly, you're not truly free. You are subject to whoever you're participating in society with, who's ever giving you that money to maintain your way of life. That doesn't mean you're free. It does not mean you're free. And that is a very, very important part that everyone understands, is freedom is self-sustaining. You are not a free person if you are not self-sustaining. You may have choices, you may do other things, all right, but you are not truly free until you're self-sustaining. And unfortunately for a lot of us, we've got ourselves in that maze, right? Where we feel like we're free, we feel like we're making our own choices, we can feel like we can do whatever we want and all that kind of stuff, right? But there's limits. Those limits is what slavery is, right? Those limits that we have on ourselves, wherever, if you stop working, whenever you reach that, everything gets cut off and all that kind of stuff, that's how you know that you are not free, because you're going to reach that point where you have to then have labor forced on you, and you have to participate in society. So we all need to realize that, and we all need to work to self-sustaining, because the more people that are self-sustaining, that can provide for themselves with all that stuff that I already mentioned, the more of that we have, the less burden everyone else is going to feel, right? Because you're not going to have to work. You're not going to have to do all this stuff, right? It's great for progression, as far as, you know, technologies and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's great to have, you know, a lot of people are participating in society and a lot of those transactions going and all that kind of stuff. It's great to have that, because you see those, as you know, as long as the laws apply for the freedom of trade and stuff like that and all that kind of stuff. It's helps with progression in it helps with progression in the material sense of the word, right? But as far as societal things go, you're not going to be free, right? You can have all the money in the world, and if you don't have a place to stay at, if you don't grow your own food, if you don't create your own utilities, and you don't have all that stuff, right? That money's gonna go. That you're gonna have those transactions, and maybe you'll make it to the end of your life. Maybe you'll make it to the end of your life, and you'll die, and you'll say, "I felt free," right? But you will not have been free. You will not have been a free person. And that is extremely important to realize, is even some people that seem like they have a lot of money and all that kind of stuff, they're not truly free. They don't own their own places. They have to participate in society. And because of that, they're not free. You need to be able to self-sustain. And there's nothing wrong with participating in society. It helps us develop as beings, right? We're able to create all this stuff that we wouldn't be able to create one person or one family, you know, or a group of people. It's hard unless you work together to create all of what we have here. So there's an importance to it, but that importance can come from creating a self-sustaining environment. Once you have that self-sustaining environment, if you want to, you can go out and participate in those societies, and because now you're freely choosing to go do those things. You are not subject to that labor. You do not have to do that labor in order to survive or maintain a way of life. And if we do that and we work towards that, then what's going to happen is you're going to see more and more people self-sustaining, and the burden on society of paying for retirement, social securities, and all these other things that were created because of this mass slavery that we forced upon ourselves without realizing it, by calling it different names and all that stuff, that's all going to slowly fade away. And the products that are truly useful, that help that self-sustaining environment, those are going to be the things that really stand out and make us better. So people are gonna be happier too. It's gonna increase happiness if you do that, because you don't have that burden on you. You're not slaved. You don't have to work. You're not labored. Your labor is on your own terms, right? So yes, you may not go in order to get that extra funding, in order to go take, a certain trip somewhere, or to go explore some other places, or do whatever you want to do, right? You're going to have to create some sort of income, most likely, in order to participate in those societies and do all that stuff. So this isn't do this and take yourself out of the world. It's do this, become free, realize that now you're free to make those choices, to do all those things. So it's a mindset that we all have to acknowledge. We don't have to live it. This isn't everyone change and be exactly what you're doing. Stop working, grow your own food, get on a farm kind of thing, right? No, it's realize you need to eliminate your expenses and become self-sustaining, because until you do that, you will not be able to call yourself free. You will always have the burden of slavery on yourself. And that's where the world gets into these wars and conflicts and all that stuff, is because you're forced to participate in these societies because you're a slave. You're truly a slave. And you don't realize it because it's called different things and all that kind of stuff, but somebody has that word, that pull over you of, well, you're not going to be able to live the way you want to, the way we're letting you live right now, unless you do these things, right? You have to participate in our society. If you don't participate in our society, then in the certain way that we want you to, then these things are going to happen. If we wouldn't have any issues with any of that stuff if we're self-sustaining, because you could just say, well, it doesn't affect me. That doesn't affect me. I don't care. That doesn't affect me. But everyone's affected in these things because of the structure that most places place on their society. So realize that. Get some land for yourself. Own it. Don't pay someone else for that land. Own that land. Create your own utilities. Create your own food. Have your family. Live a happy life on that land, right? And then, for fun, go participate in society, make more income, grow your land, grow your family, do all those things, but don't just send them out into the society with nothing. Give them a piece of land. Teach them to self-sustain themselves prior to joining society and being completely forced into slavery. Because really, you think you're setting we think we're setting our offsprings off into for success by just sending them out with knowledge. Oh, hey, you got knowledge now. You got knowledge and work ethic, right? With knowledge and work ethic, you're now free to do whatever you want. Well, really, they're not. They're hopefully can choose. Their only thing that they have is they have the ability to hopefully choose the slavery and the places that they want to be enslaved at. But because you just sent them off, instead of them being enslaved on your property, now they're enslaved in the society's property. So really grasp that freedom is a lot different than what we've turned it into with the words and everything. Because truly the only freedom most people have right now is the freedom to leave. That's the only freedom that you have. You have the freedom to, leave that society, leave that property. You have the freedom to go back to your place. But most of those places you don't even own. So that freedom is only relies on what that property has, right? There's a lot of people that don't have that true free place that they can go to and rest and say, well, now I don't have to do anything until I want to do something. They have that burden on themselves, and that burden then becomes a burden on society, and that burden on society then creates taxation, and it just is a building cycle that we get ourselves into. And we've really seen the impact of all that stuff throughout the world and throughout history. So I hope this episode really made you think about things in a different light, because a lot of us, right, we're not really viewing freedom and slavery properly, where you think that it's a contractual hold on us, saying this one person owns us. And now because you can say, well, that one person doesn't own me, all these people own me, and if I want to, I can leave the ownership of that person and go to the ownership of that person. And that's the freedom that you have, that freedom to leave one ownership and go to another ownership, and to, you know, be in your own area and not have to directly fall under that one person's thing. That's that sense of freedom that we have isn't truly freedom. So gotta acknowledge it. We gotta see it for what it really is, and we all gotta strive to be self-sustaining, because that's what's gonna push us to the next point. And maybe my next video will be about future, because there's a bright future ahead for everyone, and it's really gonna expand the way life is for everyone, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna take some time and a lot of materials and good mental understanding of reality and everything like that, but our future is really going to be nice, and we're all going to have a great future. But we need to come together and realize all this stuff, right? All these videos and all this kind of stuff is really what's going to create this warm, bright future for us. The understanding of, being free, and having the freedom to participate in society, but not the necessity. And it's really going to allow people to choose jobs that they want. They won't even be jobs. They're just these. Once you're free and you're self-sustaining, you're not choosing a job, right? You're pursuing an interest, and that's the difference. So you can't say you're pursuing an interest if you can't self-sustain yourself. You have a job, you're enslaved, and you're just choosing your owner. So, till next time.